All right, we are gonna take you guys on a tour of West Fort Collins today. So we're gonna roll around, we're gonna check out some neighborhoods, just talk about why I live in West Fort Collins. I live in Northwest Fort Collins, actually in the town of LaPorte. We're gonna show you LaPorte and just talk about the feel of the area and why it's actually counterintuitively, to me, our most requested location in Fort Collins. We will go west on LaPorte. West Fort Collins is, you know, some people would say it starts at Shields, or I would say Taft, and LaPorte connects downtown to those areas. They just put a nice new bike lane onto LaPorte, so it's real easy to bike in and out just to get from West Fort Collins into downtown. We are in downtown Fort Collins. We are heading west on LaPorte, and we'll show you the new bike lane that's just been put in. And LaPorte's a great way to get east and west from West Fort Collins into downtown. You're just about 8 minutes driving. And that's the thing about Fort Collins is, you know, obviously location's important and people want to be walkable. But even if you're at the extreme north end of Fort Collins, I mean, you can be across town in 20 minutes. So it's not like this major metro area where, you know, location is so important that depending on where you are in town, you're an hour to downtown. Pretty much, if you're in any sort of central part of Fort Collins, you're 10, 15 minutes at the most to downtown. And so because it's a small town, you know, maybe location is not as important to people as it would be in some larger cities. West Fort Collins is kind of an unassuming part of town. I think the reason people gravitate towards this area is the reason people like Fort Collins in general. It's not a flashy place. If I go to a bigger city, if I go to Denver, if I go to Houston, Chicago, I see Ferraris and all these super tricked out homes. Fort Collins is not really that kind of a place. It's a more understated place. It's not the kind of keeping up with the Joneses feel that you get in a lot of cities, and I think that's why people really gravitate towards the area. I know my wife and I just love that part of it. I had a client come from Washington, D.C., and she said just the kind of cocktail conversation, it's all about your career, and it's really just job focused. And she moved to Denver, and she said, man, people don't talk about careers here in the same way that they do in DC. It's mostly you're talking about like, are we going skiing this afternoon, or what hike are you taking? Or it's a lot more like focused on the outdoors and lifestyle. And I've also noticed that a lot of people end up in Fort Collins and they really chose to be here. Whereas if you go to some big cities, a lot of people end up there because of a job relocation. Fort Collins is not really that kind of a place. Certainly some people relocate here because of work, but so many people just wanted to be here. They moved here because they came and visited it and loved it, and they just decided to move here and to make the job work in any way they could. And I think that just makes for a different kind of a feel to the city. So we're past Shields now. We're still heading west on LaPorte. And there's starting to be some coffee shops, cafes. We're about to reach Stodgy Brewing, which is a cool little brewery. Been in there for a couple years. They have a really awesome patio. And so you're seeing some more interesting shops and restaurants. Again, that's something you're not gonna have in West Fort Collins in the same way you're gonna have in other parts of town. Like most people, if they're gonna eat, they're gonna go into downtown. There's a couple of shops that will highlight shopping areas, a couple cool restaurants, but for the most part, West Fort Collins, it's not like you're gonna drive through this part of town and see a big strip mall, a big commercial development. You're gonna have little spots like the Fox and Den. We're coming up on Stodgy Brewing. That's just the feel you get in this part of town. And now we're gonna pass Taft Hill Road. I actually think we'll turn north. There's some construction here. We're gonna go up to Vine, and we're gonna show you a couple of streets that have large lots, half acre, full acre. One of the things that we really see from our buyers is just looking for those larger lots. So much of the new construction in northern Colorado is on really small lots, 5,000 square feet and even less than that. And a big part of that is the Larimer County open space requirement. So if you're a developer and you're developing, 100 acres of land, you're only allowed to put homes on half of your developed acreage. The county wants you to turn the rest of that acreage into open space. And so obviously you can imagine if you can only develop half of your acreage, you're gonna have to maximize the amount of homes that you can put on that acreage, and that makes those lots really small. So we show a lot of new construction, and here and there it works for our clients, but a lot of times they ask to see those properties because beautiful open floor plans, incredible finishes, but when they go into the backyard, it's kind of a letdown, and they end up wanting a bigger yard space, and that pushes them back into the resale market, and we're in more established neighborhoods that we find here. So we're gonna go up to Sunset and Hollywood streets, and these have the half acre, full acre properties. West Fort Collins has a lot of large lots. The problem is if you want that 1, 2, 3 acre lot, a lot of times you're gonna find it on a busier street. So you might be on Vine, you might be on Taft or Shields or Overland. Most of those larger lots are on those busier streets, but here and there, you will find some quieter streets that has acreage property, and that's why people love Hollywood and Sunset streets so much. So we'll turn you down there, and you still got some really small houses that haven't been renovated, but you also are starting to see people do tear downs and rebuild on these streets, and we'll show you some of those homes. So you see there's some new construction there. Another new build over here. There was just a listing that came up about 1,000 square feet, totally renovated on an acre, and that sold for mid 700s. See another new build here. And you got great views of the foothills. And so many people want the huge garden. We got some turkeys there. The turkey population's absolutely exploded in Fort Collins. I know at my house there's pretty much turkeys on my property 24/7. It's pretty incredible. So now we're coming back down to LaPorte Ave. So this is Sunset. The next street over is Hollywood, kind of the same feel, large acreage, where they're doing a lot of new construction. The problem with Fort Collins is our inventory is perpetually low. So a lot of times we'll have clients coming from out of town, they're here for a weekend, and they want to see a whole bunch of homes, right? But they have specific criteria, and we're not always able to show them as many homes as they would like. So we always coach them, look, you can't come in one weekend and get kind of a full feel for what you might find over the course of 3 or 4 months. You really need to put yourself in a position where you can shop over a period of 3 or 4 months. If you're trying to buy a home in a couple weeks, maybe if you're looking at new construction, that might work. But if you're looking for especially in-town acreage or a larger lot on the west side of town, which is what so many of our clients are looking for, it needs to be a multi-month process. And you can't expect to come into town and find that unicorn property in 1 or 2 weeks. So we're going north on Overland Trail right now. Obviously we've got bikers here. This is a huge spot for cycling. These guys are probably going to ride up Risk Canyon Road. Risk Canyon connects to West Fort Collins in Bellevue, and it's just an incredible cycling destination. And if you're a road biker, you're gonna spend a lot of time grinding up the Risk Canyon Road, and then you get the reward on the way down. You get an incredible downhill experience at the end. All right, you pull into Reservoir Ridge, and then we'll talk about Poudre Overlook So this is really the heart and soul of this part of town. Like, why do people want to be here so much? And for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's access to the mountains. It's just the feel of, you know, you're still in town, you're on the valley floor, but the foothills are right there. And this is Reservoir Ridge open space. And I spend a huge amount of time here. For me, trail running is a big part of my life, and being able to get onto this trail system just a couple minutes from my house, or actually live on the Poudre Trail so I can jump on the trail. I can run or ride over here, and then you can start running up into the foothills, and you can connect to Horsetooth Reservoir. And just once you get up on that first ridge, the views are absolutely incredible. You're overlooking the reservoir. It's a wonderful resource to have this close to town. There's about 10 miles of trails right here. This connects to a bunch of different natural areas. And then obviously you can get into Horsetooth Reservoir from there. Horsetooth is just a gem. It's a place where so much paddle boarding, trail riding. There's 2 marinas, so you can put in your boat on either side of the reservoir. You know, everybody spends a lot of time up there. So we were just at the Reservoir Ridge trailhead. We're literally directly across the road from the trailhead, and this is Poudre Overlook. And these are mid-2000s, so newer construction. Most of these are 1/4 acre lots, some of them back to open space, but you're getting that newer construction, you're getting the big lots, this is a nice vintage of neighborhood because you got new construction, but you still have mature trees, and you're in a more established part of town, but you're getting the modern floor plan, you're getting high ceilings, you're getting 3-car garages. And so people really gravitate towards this neighborhood. Most of these homes are gonna be mid-7s to mid-800,000. Usually gonna get about 3,500 to 4,000 square feet in here. A lot of these have main floor owner suites. There's a nice big open space over here that the neighborhood has access to, and just a super desirable neighborhood. I had a real estate broker reach out to me last year asking specifically for a home in this neighborhood. Again, we always kind of have low inventory, and so what we did was we sent letters out to this neighborhood. We do this a lot in West Fort Collins. We try to understand what our clients are looking for, and we don't want to just sit around and wait for that property to come on the market. We want to be proactive. We want to try to go find it. And direct mail's been a great way for us to do that. So essentially we send out letters to a particular neighborhood and we say, hey, we are looking for property in this neighborhood. If you're thinking about selling in the near future, we just want to know that your house might be for sale. We'd love to come look at it. We have a buyer, and we just ask people to just kind of raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm gonna be selling. And that gives us a lot more inventory to choose from, and we're able to find those properties off the market, so we're not competing with everybody else. I mean, they might end up listing that property, or a lot of times we can buy them off market, especially on this side of town. Because we have so many buyers asking for properties in these neighborhoods, we send a lot of mail to these neighborhoods, and we're able to find some pretty awesome properties for our clients that way. All right, we're gonna duck into another West Fort Collins big lot, 1/2 acre to 1 acre plus lots. Again, you know, for me, this is kind of the perfect property I think will appreciate better than other parts of town. When you have big lots like this, when you have RV parking, you have the mature landscaping, you have direct access to the foothills, this is checking a lot of boxes for people. People need space for workshops, for RV parking, for boat parking, and especially a lot of guys, you know, are looking for warehouse space. And if you can find a property with a detached shop, think about if you have a contracting business and you need warehouse space. Warehouse space is surprisingly expensive. A lot of those guys are paying $3,000, $4,000 a month. So if they can find a small acreage property with a warehouse space and they're not spending that $3,000 to $4,000 a month on a warehouse, it just makes a huge amount of sense. This is called Lynn Mar Acres. Again, 1/2 to 1, maybe even there's some 2-acre lots in here. These are gonna be late 60s construction, so you're gonna see a lot of renovation in here. If they're gonna buy something that hasn't been touched, you know, you're easily gonna drop a couple $100,000 to get that to, you know, a place where people are really excited about the interior finishes. And if something is renovated in here, you're gonna be, you know, probably well over $1 million. We are still on Overland Trail. We're heading north. We're about to come into the town of LaPorte. It's not much of a town. It's really kind of a one stoplight, and there's a post office. But there's starting to be some cooler shops and restaurants going in there, and places like the LaPorte Town Center, while you drive through right now and you know, you might not be super impressed with what's there, there's starting to be cooler shops and restaurants going into those places. Like the town of Wellington is having the same sort of a renaissance. You know, Wellington's got a couple of breweries now, an artisan butcher, some cool restaurants. Windsor is really getting some turnover like that, and there's a lot more interesting commercial spaces going in there. You know, you've got downtown Fort Collins, so many of the retail spaces in there, the rent, you know, can be $25,000 a month. So you're having a lot of business owners that need retail space are getting pushed out into these smaller town centers. Places like LaPorte, you're gonna start to see cooler restaurants, breweries. We got a pizzeria, there's an awesome taco truck. The Swing Station is a bar, they've got live music. There's Mio Mai. And then there's even a hardware and a grocery store right here in LaPorte, and there's a little strip mall. LaPorte Hardware, and then Overland Foods is the grocery store. Only a matter of time before, you know, a retail center like this gets redeveloped. Obviously, I think a lot of us just want LaPorte to kind of stay the way it is. And, you know, you can see, obviously, this is like probably 70s, 80s construction in here. And at some point, you know, this is all gonna be redeveloped. And I think, you know, it's only a matter of time before that happens. All right, we are heading west. We're in LaPorte. We're gonna check out a couple neighborhoods over here. Cash Laputer Elementary and Middle School on our left. And then you've got the Poudre River and the Poudre Trail. Right behind the elementary school, there's a disc golf course back here. And the Poudre Trail is right here. It's always fun to be able to jump on the trail right here and then ride straight into downtown. You're never crossing a major street. You're really not that far. You can be in downtown in 20 minutes on a bike. So we're in Cotton Willow Estates. This is kind of an out of the way little neighborhood in LaPorte. Actually, this is where I live, so I thought I'd take you in here and just kind of show you the feel of this neighborhood and the reason we bought in here. It's definitely a mix, you know, on one end of the neighborhood, you've got, you know, really basic 1,000 to 1,500 square foot homes in the 500 price point. And then towards the end of the neighborhood, you've got some larger, they were custom homes in their day. These are built in the 70s and 80s, and we'll show you the lot size and the trees. Since we're near the Poudre River, you've got these incredible cottonwood trees. We just fell in love with this lot because of the trees and because of the acreage. And then we back up to the river bottom. So, you know, behind the house is floodplain, and you've got a whole strip of a couple dozen homes around here that back up to the river. And then you're looking up at Bingham Hill. You've got incredible foothill views to the west. The neighbors always talk about just how quiet it is in this neighborhood. I was talking before about how hard it is to find acreage property in town that's not on a busy street, and this is one of the neighborhoods where you can find that kind of a thing, and it is so quiet back here. Some homes in this neighborhood are in a floodplain, so that's something you gotta watch out for. Our home's right on the edge of the floodplain. We did buy flood insurance just in case, but it did not flood. In 2013, we had an incident where we got about 25 inches of rain in a day, and we had a lot of flooding when there was water running through the streets in here, and a couple homes had some water in them, so that's definitely something to pay attention to. But on the whole, despite being kind of a lower elevation neighborhood, there's the turkeys, a couple dozen turkeys over there. I don't know what it is, but 10 years ago, if you saw a turkey, you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's a turkey. And now you see them downtown. They're just up and down the river corridor, and really seeing them all the time. Still on the Pooter Trail, runs along 54G right here. You've got Vern's, which is a restaurant famous for cinnamon rolls, and it's just a fun cafe, bakery, gift shop. Got a nice patio. Within walking distance of most of these homes, you got multiple shops, restaurants, you got a grocery store, gas station. So, you know, for little grocery runs, and if you need something quick at the hardware store, it's pretty convenient to be here. And something we really notice with our buyers that are shopping for acreage is that once you go 20 minutes outside of town, you will shave hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the price of the property. I mean, it's always amazing to me, 20 minutes outside of Fort Collins still seems pretty close, but the property values do drop significantly going up there. The properties that are hitting the $2.5 million price point typically are in town, and they have acreage, and of course, you know, usually a beautiful custom home at that price point. But if you go 20 minutes north of town, you can have a pretty incredible property on 40 acres, super tricked out, and you're still, it's tough to break that $1.5 million price point. So, you know, it just goes to show you how much people value being in town as opposed to, you know, Risk Canyon's a beautiful area, but at the end of the day, you're still, you know, commuting 20 minutes into town. And I think part of the appeal of living in Fort Collins is the small town feel. And I know we used to live up in the mountains 25 minutes outside of town, and we noticed that we just, you know, our friends would be doing stuff, having dinner parties or whatever, and just that 20-minute drive, even though I think for most people coming from a big city, doesn't seem like that big of a deal, it does impact, you know, how much time you spend in town, the things you do, especially if you have kids, running them back and forth, just highlights how cool it is to have an acreage property in town. We'll pop into Watson Lake here. We've got a fish hatchery, and this is just absolutely gorgeous spot. You've got the cottonwood trees, you got the hogbacks rising right out of the valley floor here. This is a really neat spot to run or ride or go fishing. Some picnic areas right on the lake here we'll show you. So that's the fish hatchery over there. We like taking the kids over there, they can feed the fish. And then you got Watson Lake on the other side, and then down there is a really beautiful stretch of the Pooter River. You can walk along the river down there, and it's just a beautiful spot. All right, we're in the little town of Bellevue. Bellevue is pretty much what you see here. The Bellevue Bean. If you keep going that way, you go up Risk Canyon Road. We'll definitely do Risk Canyon on another video. So now we're heading south out of the town of Bellevue. Again, a lot of awesome acreage properties in here. And we are coming up on Bingham Hill Road, and some really beautiful property up there. Small acreage property right here, just sold for about $800,000. Needed to be renovated. Usually when you get those acreage properties and they're tricked out, they're gonna be well over $1 million plus. And so that's always the rub with my clients is, unless you have a huge budget, most folks are shopping for a property they know is gonna need some renovation. If they're trying to be on this part of town, here and there they might find something that's ready to go, move in ready, but you know, usually you're gonna pay a pretty penny for it. You know, except, you know, the neighborhoods, some of the neighborhoods that we'll look at that are on quarter-acre lots, you know, in newer construction, we just drove through the Pooter Overlook neighborhood. You know, those are gonna be ready to go. It's not like, you know, not everybody needs the huge lot, not everybody wants the huge lot. You can certainly be in this part of town and, you know, spend $650 to $850 and get something, you know, move-in ready on a smaller lot. And we're gonna drive through a couple of those neighborhoods here in just a minute. All right, Bella Vera, off of Overland Trail. This is a recent development. And then you've got the CSU Equine Center over here. And at the front of Bella Vera, we've got townhomes. These are 800K, very nicely finished. And then obviously you can see why people love this neighborhood. You've got nice new construction, and there's a ton of green space in this neighborhood because, like we were saying before, when you develop in this area, you've got to turn half of your developed land into open space. So These are smaller lots. So Poudre Overlook is gonna have 1/4 acre lots. That neighborhood was developed before that restriction came into effect. But this neighborhood, these are like 2017, 2018 builds. And so you've got the smaller lots, but they all back up to, almost all these back up to open space. And then you're looking right up at Reservoir Ridge. And so you really just like feel like you're in the mountains here, and you can be right on the trail system here in just a minute, and super popular neighborhood. So you can see the townhomes over there. Obviously these west-facing townhomes have got open space, and so you get some great foothill views from those units. So many of our clients are driving around saying, man, that neighborhood is awesome. We would love to have a property in there. We encourage people not to wait for those properties to come, but let us be proactive and reach out to those homeowners. Another thing we'll do is to help people identify what houses are in different neighborhoods. They might give us some search parameters, and instead of just sending them all the properties that are for sale right now, we'll send them a year's worth of sold inventory that matches their criteria, so that they can kind of go through and start to identify neighborhoods, because most neighborhoods have kind of a consistent build quality throughout the neighborhood, and you sort of understand what you might find in that neighborhood. And if we can give you a lot more inventory rather than just what's on the market right now, we can help you understand what neighborhoods you need to focus on and where we might find a property that fits you really well, and then go find it before it hits the market. Now we're in the Ponds at Overland. Awesome neighborhood. A lot of people just call it the Ponds. Early 2000s construction, kind of similar to Bella Vera, but just an older neighborhood. Bigger lots in here. You're gonna have full 1/4 acre lots. A lot of these back up to these natural open space areas. Again, you're looking right up at the foothills, so it's just a really neat feel to this neighborhood. High 700s, all the way up over $1 million for the properties that back up to the foothills here. A lot of these have 3-car garages, and you get privacy fences here, which a lot of the newer neighborhoods, they're doing split rail fences, and some of my clients don't like that because they just lack privacy. They put them in so that the smaller lots will feel bigger and feel more open, but a lot of people think it makes them feel like a lot less private being in their backyard because they don't have that privacy fence next to their neighbor. You can see some of these are split rail and some are privacy, but definitely bigger lots than you're getting at Bella Vera, because again, this is an older neighborhood. That's our West Fort Collins neighborhood tour for today. We just scratched the surface. There's so many great spots, so many great neighborhoods back here we'd love to show you guys. So if you're interested in this area, please reach out to us, and we'll keep bringing you more content on this and other parts of town. So thanks for riding along today.